I find it really interesting how I went into this season of Drag Race not really being excited for it, given the small cast and the lack of pre-VH1 winners, rooting for Raja and Jinkx exclusively with a minimal focus on Yvie and Jaida. I enjoyed the season as it was airing, and then, in true Drag Race fashion, almost everyone tapped out on the season after episodes 11 and 12. Now, we all won when Raja and Jinkx won their respective foursomes, and while there is a lot we can say about the 11th episode and the finale, and how contradictory most of it was, and really showed that Drag Race should stop relying on twists, I actually enjoyed the season as a whole. I think it's one of the best All-Star seasons, certainly one of the best, if not the best VH1 season, and while we're still getting background info about the season, it seems like most queens were pleased with it until the end. So they were treated well enough, I guess. Regardless of all of that, this is the point system in place. Let's get into the ranking. Well, actually, first, let's get into giving shoutouts to my new supporters on Patreon. We're welcoming back J Mold, but also we're saying hello to Josh. Thank you both for joining and helping me out. If you cannot support me on Patreon, that's totally cool, but you can always like, comment, and subscribe here if you enjoy what I do. Okay, first we actually need to establish how the queens placed originally. This won't take too long, but basically we're doing it based off the stars and how the queens did in the lip sync for the prize. The Viv is last, Jaida is 7th because she has more stars than the Viv, Yvie is 6th, Raja is 5th, Trinity 4th, Shea 3rd, Monét 2nd, and Jinkx 1st, of course. But who's 8th in the ranking here? Well, the queen with the worst track record is Jaida Messens Hall. Yeah, Jaida ended this season with 42 points and a PP score of 3.5. Now, wait for the notes section of this video to see how I distributed the points for the finale episode. Jaida in this season showed just how lovable she was. Whenever people would question her win, they would usually say that Gigi should have won season 12. Gigi is known as a fashion queen, and interestingly enough, Jaida excelled in the fashion challenges of this season, kind of showing that you shouldn't question why she won. Furthermore, she was always bubbly, charming, beautiful, and even though she is last here, it doesn't mean that she's any less worthy of the title of being a winner. What I really enjoy about Jaida are her runways. There is nuance to her drag, and even though she puts up this ditzy front, you can tell that she's actually very smart with the way she presents herself. Plus, she doesn't take herself too seriously, and that's always very refreshing. I'm glad she was back for this season. Also, her snatch games are very underrated. Looking at the graph of Jaida's track record, it is sad to see how her time on the season basically was just 2 times of her having highs, and then it was a constant downhill trajectory. In the 7th place, we have Yvie Oddly. Yvie is here with 43 points and a 3.583 recurring PP score. Yvie is also a joy to watch in this season. Other than being the most beautiful one out of drag for me, I was always excited to see what choices Yvie was going to take, either with her comedy, her runway looks, or just her performances on stage. Or, well, the runway. I feel like Yvie's win gets questioned a lot as well, but I don't know if people that do that actually remember season 11. Yvie was a strategic force on there, who in the top 6 had 4 girls that the production favored be completely against her. And she ended up winning because she was genuine, she was talented, and yeah, they kind of beat us over the head with this, but different. She didn't have to show that side of herself in this season, so she was shown as more relaxed, more fun, not really trying to prove anything like on season 11, but more just showing off her drag. We have nothing but love for Yvie in this house. Yvie's track record throughout the season was all over the place, peaking in episode 1 and reaching its lowest point in episode 3. Much like Jaida, Yvie never passed the PP score of 4, but she also never dipped as low as 3. In the 6th place, we have another queen whom I truly love, Raja, with 46 points at a 3.83 recurring PP score. Now, I was the first person that questioned Raja's win because of her connection to RuPaul, but now I do not question her win at all because of the story that was told in the season. Really, anyone out of her and Manila, and yeah, even Alexis could have won that season had the story been told just a tad bit differently, and it would all still make sense. Raja went into this season to reintroduce herself to people. Most of the newer fans knowing her as the production puppet on Fashion Photo Review that's also more positive than Raven. But then again, the bar for that is in hell. Raja was never in the top 2 for the fashion challenges this season, but she was in the top 2 for the challenges that you wouldn't associate with a fashion queen. Acting and comedy/character monologue challenges. Raja showed just how versatile she is and that you don't need to do stunts in performances to captivate your audience. She comes from a generation of people that aren't used to instant gratification, and you could really see that in her time with the season. I would also like to include this comment that one of my supporters on Patreon left about Raja and Jinkx. So, Johnny Minogue says, "I'm thrilled that the Luggo TV girls, Jinkx and Raja, won the top prizes. Unless in the last 10 years you watched Fashion Photo Review or was a frequent visitor to Provincetown or Puerto Vallarta, many in the Drag Race fandom would not have known that much about either Jinkx's or Raja's talents. As someone who has done all of the above, plus having watched since season 1, their wins are not only well-earned, but their greatness will now be supplanted in the minds of a new generation of Drag Race fans." I may sound like an old man yelling at the sky, but all hail the Luggo Drag Race winners. Max expressed that 2 of his favorite queens on the season were Jinkx and Raja. Now I'm going to read what he said about Raja, but later you'll hear what he said about Jinkx. "Raja I did not see or hear much from since her original season. All I saw was Fashion Photo Review, which were, well, at some point we could see that she wasn't that passionate about. I couldn't imagine what she would bring and if it would hold up to the modern Drag Race standard. But she came and did not just show that she was still great, if not times better, at the things she excelled at in season 3, but showed us a lot of new great things she could do." As you can see from her chart, Raja did have a slow burn towards her peak in episode 5, which she later matched again in episode 8, with an almost parallel 2-episode drop right after her 2 top 2 placements. In the 5th place we have the Vivienne, who earned 47 points during her time of the season. She's a point away from tying 2 people in the top 4. I feel a little bad for the Vivienne. Coming onto US Drag Race where foreigners are treated like garbage and mere stereotypes of their cultures, I knew she was going to get screwed over somewhat. And yeah. The Vivienne was used as the funny accent foreigner for the first quarter of the season. Then she won by being that funny accent person, after which she was the only person in the season who got a villain edit, opposed to Jinkx's hero edit and their mini 4 to 5 episodes feud, and then she got nothing. Trust me, I did not really like the Vivienne on Drag Race UK, but on this season, yeah. You cannot tell me that she's not the most underrated queen there. It isn't even like I have a bias for her that I'm saying this. It was just criminal how little the production thought of her as a winner. Looking at the Vivienne's chart, she's the only queen out of the bottom 4, per se, to have reached a PP score that's above 4. Doing so twice, and then having a PP score of 4 in 3 episodes, which is pretty impressive given her streak of 3 safe episodes in the beginning. In the 4th place, we have Trinity the Duck. Trinity ended the season with 48 points and a PP score of 4, much like the Queen in the 3rd place, but Trinity has fewer stars than her. When I did my "What if there had been eliminations on All-Star 7" video, there were people in the comments that were like,
"Oh my god, you hate Trinity, why did you eliminate her first?"
Go to therapy, first of all. Second of all, Trinity's main talent is her drag. That's not a negative critique, but if you're in a singing competition and you're asked to show a talent and you say, "Okay, I will sing," you definitely should be one of the worst of the week by default, even if your singing is not bad. Like, do you get what I mean? In fact, throughout the entire season, I preached just how great and versatile of a drag queen Trinity is. She can perform as a drag queen, her fashion is very drag fashion, her comedy is very drag comedy. She's a drag queen's drag queen. And then, out of drag, she's very personable and fun. I also know that there will be people that will now invalidate Trinity's win because Monét placed higher than her here, but I hope I don't have to tell you how dumb that is. Trinity's track record dipped below 3 only once in the season. She was consistently between the high and top 2 margins. Trinity is excellent. What I'm trying to say is, put some respect on Trinity the Duck's name and look to her as an example of someone who grew, never complained, and worked hard to get what she wanted. In the third place is Shea Couleé, with the same overall and PPE score as Trinity. Now, Shea is a queen I did not care for going into this season, expecting shenanigans right off the bat with her. I was right when it came to shenanigans, but I actually got to relate to Shea on this season. She's so hardworking, and when it comes down to it, her hard work is something that should really be admired. To me, at least. I think that she has the most beautiful runway look of the season with her sunflower look, and even though she got a fair amount of favoritism, critiques, and placements wise, it was kind of sad to see that what took her out of the running for the win in this season is the same thing that took away her win on season 9. It's a shame that the production using her as a marketing tool does not allow her to shine the way she should. And from what I've seen, a lot of people have now grown to dislike her because of the production and the way that they use/present her. And I think that's fair to say, but I also don't think that any of those ill feelings should go against Shea, but the production, of course. Looking at Shea's track record, the consistency of her spending half of the season with a PP score of 4 is chef's kiss. Of course, she had a massive drop between episodes 1 and 4, but that almost always happens when you win in the first episode. In the second place, we have Monét, who finished this season with 50 points and a 4.16 recurring PP score. Oh my god, the journey Monét and I went on during her seasons is astonishing. I loved her in season 10, I did not care for her on All Stars 4 and was baffled by her win, and then on this season, I loved her. My heart grew like 79 sizes when Monét and Jinkx were the two queens fighting for the crown in the end. I win either way. I love how Monét went on to All-Star 7 ready to play Survivor and then couldn't really get to do that, but it paid off in the end for her, and her strategy along with her many talents got her to that top 2. I'm so proud of her. By the way, I want to see Monét on Survivor. I think Monét won everyone over when she sang opera in the 11th episode, truly showing a talent and variety when it came to singing on Drag Race. I've nothing but praise for her in this season. Her track record, though, is all over the place. She has this free fall from the beginning till the middle of the season, then she's consistently not really doing much, and then the last 4 episodes are her slow but steady rise to the top. And in the first place, of course, is the legendary Jinkx Monsoon. Jinkx ended the season with 55 points and a PP score of 4.583 recurring. What can I say about Jinkx that I haven't said already many times? She's fantastic, she has improved her looks. I'm glad that somebody whose drag is more of a cosplay, costumey side has been crowned the queen of all queens. Because Drag Race loves invalidating that type of drag. Her comedy is versatile and she's an insanely good character actor and writer. Her singing is also just off the charts, being able to be comedic but very emotional as well, always technically impeccable, never falling into the trap of drag singing where male queens try to sound female and thus they sing very breathily or with their throats, which just do not do that. I love Jinkx. Oh my god. Guys, we won. If Jinkx's win bothers you, I just hope you've already started thinking about which high school or university you're going to go to. You know, think about your future. Start working out now, read more, spend more time outside, and love your friends. Jinkx's lowest point in the season, track record wise, is also 3 of the contestants' highest points. And Jinkx peaked twice with a PP score of 5. Max wrote about Jinkx saying this: Jinkx became my all-time favorite queen when I discovered her outside of the show. Her Snatch Game performances as Liza Minnelli and Betty Davis on the Battle of the Seasons tour, must watch by the way, I recommend the Eden's Hill version. Her Haters tour roast and the roast of Michelle Visage, as well as her YouTube videos, made me really see what else she could do, and I was in awe of her. We also share our birthday, so it makes total sense. And she even surpassed those high expectations that I have, which wasn't something that I expected, but yeah. It happened. She's the queen of all queens. The biggest winner of this season, aka the queen that plays the most above her original placement, is the Vivienne. This spot is usually reserved for the true robbed goddess of a season, so it still checks out. The biggest loser, aka the queen that plays the most below her original placement, is sadly Jaida Essence Hall. Yeah, Jaida, Raja, and Yvie all placed a spot below their original placement because of the Viv's great competition performance. But because Jaida plays the lowest of the 3, she's sadly in this spot here. Okay, the notes. Usually here I talk about the placements for each episode, but in this season we only had 4 placements. Safe, high, top 2, and winner. High were the queens that the judges pointed out as possible top 2 contenders during the deliberations. We were shown nothing but positive critiques this season, so the placements for the first time ever are completely given to us by the show. And by the way, there were also negative critiques this season, but I decided not to show them. Now let's talk about how I distributed points for the last episode, because the show didn't really give us definite placements. So I feel like it's pretty obvious that in the last episode we still had a top 4 and a bottom 4. Thus, obviously, we will count Jinkx, Monét, Shea, and Trinity as the high 4 queens, with Monét and Jinkx in the top 2, with Jinkx winning. However, I also gave 1 extra point to the queens that won their lip syncs, those being Jinkx, Monét, Raja, and Yvie. Obviously, Monét and Jinkx got the most points as they were the best of the best, so they deserve those. And I know somebody will cry that I'm favoring Jinkx here, but bestie, we've been doing it this way ever since they added lip syncing for the crown to the show. Please calm the fuck down. It's fair when it benefits your favorites, but it's unfair when it doesn't. Interesting. What we can talk about are different stats regarding the placements. So Jaida spent the most time as safe. 9 episodes in fact, followed by Yvie and Vivienne with 7. Jinkx and Raja follow them with 6. Trinity is next with 5, and Monét and Shea spent the least time as safe, 4 times each. On the other hand, Jinkx spent the most time in the top 2 placements, followed by Monét and Trinity. Next is the Vivienne with Jaida, Raja, and Shea being there only twice. Yvie was in the top 2 only once this season in episode 6. However, I think it's also important to look at how many times queens were in the top 4, but not in the top 2. Shea leads here with 6 times, followed by Yvie, Monét, and Raja, who are at 4. Trinity is next with 3, the Vivienne with 2, Jaida with 1, and Jinkx with 0. Jinkx and Yvie are the only queens this season that did not take certain placements. Jinkx with a high placement and Yvie with the win placement. But Jinkx is also the only queen who won the season's 2 mini challenges, so you win some, you lose some, and if you're Jinkx Monsoon, you win them all. If we look at the cast preseason ranking, we can see that only Raja stayed in the same spot, in the 6th place, with Monét showing the most improvement and Jaida worsening in a way the most. And that's it. That's the video. Please do leave your unpopular opinions about All-Star 7 and, if you can, mark them with unpopular opinion. How did you enjoy the season? Who was your favorite queen? Who surprised you the most? Sound off in the comments, and thank you for watching.